Hello everyone, my name is Link from Dimension X, and welcome to Building 101. In this episode, we're going to be talking about walls, windows, and doors. So, let's get started. So, to begin with, we have what I would classify as an interior wall. It is very flat with a little bit of eye-catching colors at the top and bottom, differentiating the middle, as well as some fences to stick out and put lights on. This would work in like an older manor style of house. This style is actually one that I use quite often just because it is so simple, but it also just gives you that little bit of character that makes it work as well as you need it to. You can do this with less colors, so perhaps using something like oak and birch, which blend in very well. But let's move on. So for exterior walls, sometimes it's good to have a little bit that looks just a little thinner to give some depth. And I typically do this in a row. And how I've been doing it for years is stairs and trap doors like this. However, the new shelves work just as well. When you're looking at an outside wall versus an inside walls are generally very, very flat. However, outside walls typically aren't, just so that way they have that little bit of interestingness and character that makes you look at them and say, hey, that looks pretty cool. Moving on from that, we then have what I like to call the stone wall. Typically, I use this in castles and such, and while it looks at first just like a normal wall, when you look at it from the side, you'll see that there's a little bit sticking out here and there, and that is done quite simply by putting stone walls on the back just to give it a little bit of depth and make it a little more interesting. And of course, you can do this by switching out some of these walls for other ones, but I decided to keep it simple just for this demonstration because I didn't need to make it too complicated, just to get the point across. Moving on from that, we then have the quartz temple style. And this isn't that difficult. It is something that I've kind of seen used in places like churches and stuff in Minecraft builds. But it is just quartz making a nice, interesting bit here, surrounded by pillars or columns, whatever you want to call them. And it's not too complicated. I was honestly 50-50 about even showing this just because it is super simple. But moving on from that, we now get into the natural, or the stone wall part 2, or what I also call the cave wall. I call it this because when I'm building caves, I typically want to make the walls a little interesting but not eye-catching. So this keeps them still kind of flat, but also gives them that little bit of depth that makes you think, that's really neat. But allows me to still focus on whatever it is, be it me replicating the bat cave or whatever. Also, yes, I have replicated the bat cave before. I may do it again. But moving on to that, we get to windows. And the first one is a huge open window. This is something that I like to put in my builds just because it is a great place to be able to fly in and out of using Elytra. Now, I use Elytra fly a lot. I know not everyone does, but having an easy access in and out of my buildings is really great. It also works in case you want to build an Elytra course for your friends to go through. This is just a simple circle, and similar to the first one, these side trapdoors can be switched out for shelves. However, since you need to use trapdoors on the top and bottom, I still like using them on the sides, just to keep it nice, round, and even. Moving on from that, this is what a typical window for me looks like. It is just stairs to kind of look like the windowsill on the outside and give it that little bit of depth, along with panes just to make it a little bit more interesting. And if you notice, I'm not using regular clear glass panes, I'm actually using gray panes. That's because it gives it a little bit of color differentiation and makes it look a little bit more different, and especially standing out against the wood. I really like it. And next to it, I have something I like to call the window hall. Not the hallway window, no, the window hall. Occasionally I do a build and I'll do a small little hallway like this. I'll just put a simple window on the end of it. In all actuality, this area will serve no purpose in most builds, but when you have this sitting over the entrance of a building, it will make people a little curious, and you can use it to add character to a build. And that is what I love doing, is adding character. Moving on from this, we have the bay window. Now these are in real life very simple and just a small round window. Not too much going on here. I made this one for having the bay bit 4 wide, but you can also do 3, 2. I don't recommend doing 2, to be honest, but I have seen it. Or however you want to do it. Moving on from the windows, though, next we come to our first door, which I call the giant door. And it's just 2 regular spruce doors surrounded by trapdoors, just to make it look like one huge set of doors, even though only 2 of them actually open. And then we also have the smaller version, which just has 2 trapdoors above the regular one. And if you want to have some fun and do a 3 wide entrance, you can do this and have your friends walk in like this. Because this is the correct way to walk through the doors, obviously. I say this calling out my family, who has done this to me once or twice. They know who they are. But these are just style examples. Realistically, you can go anywhere. These are just kind of the beginner ones that are simple to build, don't take much thought or energy to make. But normally I would then show you guys an example, as you can see back there with the builds I did last time. This time, however, I'm going to give you guys the unique opportunity to see something that I have been working on, and that is going to be my base for my survival build. So let's hop on over there with a spin. Alright, and here we are. And if you look behind me, you will see my design as it stands. I will point out that not all this is as it will be once it gets to my survival world. As you can see, I'm still working out things such as redstone and stuff on the inside. But this is just a base design for what I am working with. So let's walk up to the front here, and you will see the windows. I put just regular glass panes because that's what I grabbed. Once I get to my survival world, I will be using the gray ones just because they give that bit of character. But you can see that they're indented to give that depth of field. And if we actually grab a full-on front image or look at this one, you will see that it is very depth. There is a lot of different areas, and I just enjoy it because it makes it look interesting. It doesn't look bland. And you will see that I went with the 3 wide, 2 high door. And I don't know why I really like this design. And looking on the side here, you will see that little bit of wall that I showed you, along with something else that you can add, which is beams across the whole thing with columns on the ends. And then for the bit in between beams, I did this interesting thing you can do with stairs to make it look like it's solid, but also have that little bit of depth in it. And I'll show you even more windows and such. And you can even do them huge like this and have a little conservatory style area. But even on the outside, you can have some very basic walls that are just flat, like over here. I will not show you the back because it is super flat. So far, I have not gotten back there. But once we get in, I haven't gotten to doing too much design here for the actual lighting. For now, I'm just using end rods to light up in here. But you can see I do use a little bit of depth here by making some crown molding going into the very dark library, because I forgot to wax these when I originally put them in, and they've oxidized since while I'm working on building. But I go with a lot of columns just to kind of keep it from looking bland. And in all honesty, I have not gotten everything done, but over here there is something interesting I want to show you. Had to remember where I placed it. This is a entryway that I have been working with for a bit, and I never really liked how having different trapdoors on the sides changed how it looked. So them adding these shelves really helped me a lot, because the shelves are all uniform in how they look. And then in here, I did something interesting by doing just a single door, but I surrounded it with logs in a way that it looks kind of natural. But I will admit, these colors do not work. I will be changing them. And that's just what I have on the first floor. This building is going to have several. And coming up here, I have the big windows that I was talking about to get in and out with the Elytra. And actually, what I'll do, I will even showcase this. Where are Elytra? I can never remember where they put them. Here we go. Here's... I'm actually going to grab a stack. I don't know if I need a stack, but I'm going to grab it. If you see how easy that was to fly out and flying back in, gives you more than enough room, even with some air, going up into an area that I have not even... Heck, I actually don't have stairs going up to it yet. But we'll fly up here as I'm still working on redstone up here as well. You'll see a wider version of my window hallway. Again, this will serve no purpose. And you'll see that the entire wall is just going to be the shelves, just to make it a little interesting and to showcase my love of this new block. I will admit it, I am in love with this new block. But that's kind of where I'm at. Again, big, tall windows near the top, but the shorter, wider ones on the bottom mostly, with a few of the longer ones just to draw your attention up a little bit. And here is a single wide 3-high door that I have designed with a little bit of depth, extra depth right up there. And once you come in here, this is going to be my bedroom. We'll actually be talking about this stuff in later episodes. You can see that you can go with simple doors. There's nothing wrong with that. I would like to point that out. There's nothing wrong with using simple doors. Not everything has to be super fancy, because then you're drawing too much attention to everything and it gets distracting. It gets noisy. So when you're dealing with windows, doors, and walls, you want to have character and attention getting, but not too much noise. And that is going to be everything from me today. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure you hit the like button. And while you're down there, leave me a comment letting me know what you liked, what you didn't, what you think I can do better on. And hit that subscribe button for me. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.